Hello, everyone. My name is John Edwards, and I am without Zeke Baker, and together we make the Dad's Drinking Bourbon. Wherever you are, whatever time it is, thank you for making us a part of your day. We are still here. This is like a month later at this point that we are putting this podcast out, but we have been at the Little Arrow Resort in Townsend, Tennessee. We've been hanging out for Father's Day with a bunch of different distilleries out of Tennessee. So you might have already heard our podcast with Short Mountain and Postmodern. Now we are getting to sit down with the brains and the bronze behind Old Forge Distillery.
Somewhere.
I will let you guys decide which one is which. Keener is giving me a shit fit with his microphone because
I'm glad you broke the ice there with that big shit word, because I was curious about what I could and couldn't say.
Just don't say the F-bomb.
That's my favorite word.
We keep it to cable TV. That's the way, if you're wondering about our podcast, it's cable TV. They say shit on cable. They don't say the F word on cable. South Park did once.
And I'll try to curb it then.
But Keener can't hold his mic. He wanted to actually hang it down. I have stands, but they're table stands. We are sitting here with the good folks at the Little Arrow Resort in Townsend, Tennessee. Say hello, everyone in Townsend. It's not often that we get a group of people, a live audience, a live studio audience for our podcast. So we're very, very appreciative to all of you that are sitting here and that have sat here throughout all of these podcasts so far. We know it's been about hour 4 at this point that we've been hanging out, hour 3. But we have Kris Tatum from Old Forge, and we have Keener. What's your last name?
Shanton.
Shanton.
Yeah.
Well, it is great to meet you. And both of them are here from Old Forge Distillery. Like I said, we are at the Little Arrow Resort. There's tiny homes here, there's Airstreams, there's glamping, there's all sorts of, there's cabins, there's an awesome playground. My daughter has been going on that playground. She really liked making a fire. We did that at about 8 o'clock this morning. She wanted to make a fire. I think she's at the pool right now having a great time. But Keener and Kris, thank you so much for coming. It is great to have you.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, thanks for having us, man.
Oh, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Thanks for holding your microphone for 30 minutes.
I'll work on it. We've made it 2 so far.
It's been 4. 4, but 2 I have to cut out because you couldn't hold your microphone. So yes, I feel like it's one of those things where it's like, it has been 2 minutes since a workplace disaster. Like, do you have something in the back? Like, how many times is there a mishap at Old
We just
Forge?
took it down. It just ran out of erasers. It kept going through erasers over and over.
But tell everybody what you do. Let's go left to right. So, Keener, you go first. Tell everybody what you do at Old Forge, and then, Kris, you tell everyone what you do at Old Forge.
Head Distiller. I'm the head distiller at Old Forge Distillery.
And so he...
Slash, bar manager, slash, we wear several different hats in that place.
So you make you're like the Dunkin' Donuts guy. You have the apron. It's time to make the whiskey.
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
Kris, what do you do at Old Forge?
So I handle mainly distribution. I try to keep
me out of trouble.
Keep
me
our
out
staff,
of trouble.
but mainly distribution, and then a lot of our government relations stuff that we have across the state.
But you technically are the owner.
I'm a partner. There's 3 other partners on it.
So you're the face?
No, Keener is the face. He's the face, the voice, and the brawn. I'm more in the background on most stuff.
It is great to have both of you here. Tell us a little bit about Old Forge, and Kris, this is probably something good to start with you on. How did Old Forge actually come to be? How did you and the other partners decide to actually make Old Forge Distillery? For those of you that don't know, it is right in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. When you go down, it's right off the strip by the Old Mill restaurant. There is actually people forging next door to you. There's a knife-making shop. I forget the name of it, but they actually have lessons where you can go out in the open and forge a knife on the spot. So as you walk out of Old Forge, you hear forging going on, the banging of the mallets against the knives, against the steel. But what is the story behind Old Forge?
Well, it started as a construction project. Somebody came in, talked about the idea, and we kind of ran with it from there. Location was pivotal for us. We're in a high traffic tourist area. It's something that in the distilling business is vital, because you're looking at, like, for instance, you're probably looking at 75% capital outlay before you even apply, before you put your signature on an application. So if you're going to spend $1 million, you're spending $750,000 before you apply for the job.
And I have to say, I mean, that location is everything. When I went in today, it was packed. It was absolutely packed with people. I feel like there needs to be, or I feel like there's going to always be that high traffic in Pigeon Forge. Is there ever a time there's not a lot of high traffic in Pigeon Forge? Or
there's a few weeks that, we would consider, quote, dead, but we're fortunate. There's, to put it in perspective, we had 1.1 million people walk across our parking lot, our front porch, and the entire Kentucky Bourbon Trail had 1 million people visit the distilleries there. So I say that as a little bit of a jab at Kentucky Bourbon Trail, but we chose our location specifically for that. We're in the middle of a historic district. We're in a 110-year-old building. As John, you said, we're right beside a 1830 grist mill that's been continuously running. It's the longest continuously running one in the U.S. So,
and there's a candy store that my daughter made me spend more money at the candy store than it did for lunch, right? So there was a place to get taffy and fudge and all that stuff that's out there. So I feel like, do you almost feel like you have it easy opposed to other people in the sense that foot traffic is there and the tourism is there?
I think we have it easy as far as from not just the perspective of having a base for guests, but also because we can throw a lot of stuff at the wall and see what sticks. So, if Keener, who's very creative, and he actually works really close with the candy store operator to come up with stuff, and so it allows us the opportunity to try
That's
things and
just
see what
what
works.
he tells you when he's over there eating their food.
R&D, yeah. R&D, Chris. No, like you said, I mean, yeah,
Like,
we
hey, Tatum, I got some new fudge. It's really, really good. I feel like we could distill this into something.
Yeah. No, he's absolutely right. We've got a ton of people that come through there every year, but even more so than that, that's a good part of it. But also, the candy store, the creamery. We have a farmhouse kitchen. We have a restaurant, a commissary. A girl named Danielle that I work pretty closely with. That we're building a lot of synergy between those stores. We're bouncing a lot of ideas off of each other. They're making a lot of foods with our spent grains that don't go to a local cattle farmer. Our cream liqueur line, our rum-based cream liqueur line is, I don't know if, shamefully, it's a flat ripoff of our ice cream maker's ice creams. I'm turning them into a boozy melted ice cream. So Farmhouse Kitchen offers a lot of savory inspiration for ththings like this. We'll talk about this rock and rye line in a little bit, but
Farmhouse Kitchen, was that a restaurant?
No, it's right on the end. It's next to the candy store, right there at the corner of Butler and Old Mill.
We skipped it because I felt like it was just a kitchen store.
Big mistake.
And I was really worried that my daughter was going to go in there and break stuff
or buy more food.
Well, but is it a place to buy food, or is it a place to get like cast iron skillets and stuff like that?
Not necessarily that. I mean, a lot of kitchen supplies, but a lot of jams, jellies.
So you're telling me I need to go back tomorrow?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
If you want something to balance out that sweet tooth that you got at the candy store, that's a place to go. But anyway, so bottom line is we're fortunate to be situated where we are because we have a lot of people, but I have a lot of opportunity to work with some creative minds and, kind of hopefully build some synergy with these people and take the Old Mill Square as a whole to the moon. Kind of transcend what we can be by ourselves.
So there's a lot of stuff in Pigeon Forge where you get like Alcatraz East, the ride, Titanic, the ride. Is there ever going to be an Old Forge Distillery, the ride?
And we have that.
It's private, but we do.
You do something. I mean, I'm serious. The sky's the limit. You could get one of those Motion Odyssey movie things and act like you are a drop of whiskey going through the whole process.
I like it a lot.
And
Brilliant.
you guys just got to cut me in.
You're in.
You all are witnesses. If they do this,
Percentage.
I get a percentage of the profits.
You're in, man. You're in.
So, Old Forge started as a construction project. Kris, you have a background in construction, correct? Or?
Yeah, that's basically. I've been in construction now, going on with that company 15, 16 years, and it was born from that. And it just kind of kept growing and became its own little beast, if you will. We were fortunate to bring Keener on. Not at the beginning. He wasn't with us, but he came on probably a year in, and has taken us to where we couldn't have gotten without him. So, but we really grassrooted it from the beginning. Yeah, I know.
That's touching.
Touched it, didn't it?
Touching.
But it was a grassroots from the beginning. I spent time at Billy's place, Billy Coffin's place, Corsair. We spent some time out there visiting distilleries, Cobalt up in Chicago. To try to understand what the heck's out there. Like what products there, because unlike some of our other distilleries, we have again 1 million people that it's going to be cool to buy a bottle of moonshine. So for us, it's a matter of that gets the money going, and then we, have a legacy that we're able to start making the higher end stuff and laying down the bourbons and whiskeys.
Because what proof is the moonshine that y'all are putting out?
It varies. Anything flavored is anywhere from 60 to 80 proof, so 30 to 40% alcohol. We have 3 clear products that are different.
Right, we know you're honking. We get it. Sorry. Keep going.
Brother, I forgot what the hell I was saying.
Well, you were talking about the other.
The clear moon. Yeah, the clear moonshines. Yeah, so we have 3 clear moonshines that are all 3 at 100 proof. They're different mash bills. They're the building blocks for a wheat whiskey, a rye whiskey, and a bourbon.
Well, I appreciate you not putting out even your flavored ones at least 60 to 80, because nothing is a bigger buzzkill than when you get a good flavored moonshine and then you realize it's 30% ABV
and 30% sugar.
Yeah, and
diabetes.
You sit there and you're like, man, not only am I not feeling a buzz from this, I'm also killing myself and getting fatter, which is a problem. I'd rather eat some good food and get fat, like I am, than drink some stuff like that.
That was definitely something that we kept in mind when we set out to
you are
intoxicate
a skinny guy. Kris is not, so I know who made the
visual. That hurts.
Thank you kindly.
You were talking about the
so three clears at 100 proof, all different whiskey mashes, and later on we can get into all that. But the 4th clear moonshine that we carry right now is started as a limited edition product because we had just started our bourbon program, and some of the distillate came off of the still higher proof than we wanted. You know enough about it to know typically the higher the proof, there's a kind of an inverse relationship there with flavor. Yeah. It wasn't flavorful enough, so we were like, well, hell, we'll just put it unaged in a mason jar and at the distillation proof. So that's our backwoods cut, and it's different every time. Right now it's 129 proof. That's legit the proof it came off the still. The previous batch was 143 or 135. Point is, it varies, and that one's probably as close as you're going to get at this level to something that you can find at some dude's trunk. It stings a bit.
I should have got some of that stuff when I was at the distillery.
Man, we'll put a bottle or a jar back for you.
Yep, we'll get you some.
What is so all this started? You had the construction. You do that. You open the distillery. There's all these people there. We talked about the moonshine. I'm almost kind of reviewing in my head a list of everything because you guys have so much. You go in the distillery. There's a lot going on in your merch area because you have your flavored shine area, you have your bourbon area, you have a gin area, and I want to talk about this gin, but Keener, how about you just go through all of the different spirits that you all have? We know we talked about 5.
Right.
Not all of the different flavors.
No, of course. We do have, 17 flavored, 17 moonshine products in that category, but we knew instantly, at least when I came aboard, that we wanted to not abandon that category, but we wanted to get outside of it and start putting down that that foundation for being a craft distillery. And we have a barrel aged gin that we're definitely going to talk about soon. A bourbon, a rock and rye line that's 5 products, 5 expressions in that line. A rum based cream liqueur line that we mentioned earlier. Yeah, it's ultimately 15 products, but they rotate seasonally, so there's never any more than 5 to 7 on the floor at any one time. An unaged rum, vodka. Of course, you got to have one of those.
And I will say, the stuff that you're doing right now, you source your bourbon, you have the Moonshine line that you guys are distilling there, because the building blocks of those moonshines are going to be the same as a whiskey. Is there, or let me use correct English, are there any plans to age some of that stuff and then eventually put out your own distillate?
Oh yeah.
And that was the whole thing from the beginning. Again, we've got 1 million people there, so it's cash generated. So there's no sense in. We have some unique flavors. We have a French toast. We have a vanilla bean. We have a coffee. So you don't want it to taste like coffee and corn or coffee and rye. So it's stupid to do that. So that's just a base GNS for our flavors. We call them fun flavors.
Right.
And then the other thing to keep in mind is there are no liquor stores in Pigeon Forge. So you go stay at these 7,700 cabins that are out there. We want to be that stop. But so that's why we have such a vast array. So all this is the foundation for the stuff that we've laid down and we have in barrels.
Where is the nearest liquor store?
It would be right at the front of Gatlinburg. So what, 7 miles away?
Gosh, maybe even closer than that.
Which is tough then, because it goes down to the 1-lane road, and if you're going to drive, this is a PSA for everybody who's in Pigeon Forge. If you're going to drive to Gatlinburg from Pigeon Forge, you're going to get stuck in traffic and you're going to get pissed off.
Yeah.
So you might as well just go to Old Forge, because it sounds like, from everything you guys have, and from me going in there today, you have everything you need. You want vodka? They have it. You want rum? They have it. You want some fake moonshine? They have that too. Yeah. I'm kidding. If you want some flavor.
And you said, are you even listening? You just said, yep.
Yeah. At this point.
Yep. Chris is on autopilot. Yes.
No, I'm just numb. If you want some flavored moonshine.
Let me interrupt and just tell you.
Thank you. Please enlighten him.
The actual education. Moonshine is not a federally protected category. It's basically almost a catch-all. It's not quite the big catch-all. You can do anything you want, but it touches on liqueurs, it touches on cordials. It's like, oh hell, we've got this flavor.
Anybody taking notes, remember the term or the phrase distilled spirit specialty.
There you go.
All right, that's your federal category that most of the moonshines fall under.
Yeah.
I just was hoping you were going to bring me something that your buddy with a nickname like Moonlight.
Bubba or something.
Yeah. Gravedigger.
Yeah.
We have a guy Gravedigger. He had 3 teeth at last time. And
God, it's been so long ago since he's definitely down to 1.
But we have
he has no more than 1 tooth right now.
Those are resumes. That's what those are.
I just wanted something that you were like, listen, it's over in Sevier County. There's this guy. His name is I don't even know. He comes from a long line. He went all the way back to the Hatfields and the McCoys. And he's got this hill in his backyard.
Yeah.
And in that hill is hidden a still.
No, we everything's legal and tax paid.
Well done. Well crafted there. Well crafted, sir.
Yeah.
No, everything's tax paid.
And with that still, these barrels he did fill.
Oh my!
Somebody cut them out. Hey, why don't we? I think we should taste.
Yes, I think the fact that we are 20 minutes in here and we haven't started tasting spirits now.
That's neglect.
It is neglect. I know that Keener has been drinking a lot of this already, but go ahead and pass this out, y'all.
It was just to keep my cup from blowing off the table. I had to keep something in it.
This is a gin that he has right now. This is a barrel-aged gin.
Yes, indeed.
Tell me more about this gin, because you made this, Keith.
Man, this is the first expression in our Tennessee roots line. And the reason it's in our Tennessee roots line is almost every single thing that goes into this is Tennessee. It starts from a little town called Dandridge, Tennessee. There's a local vineyard, Gaddis Vineyards, that grows grapes, muscadines in particular, and we buy just about his entire vineyard every year. He crushes it. We bring it in, ferment it into a muscadine wine, which if you're from around here, you're very familiar with that. And then we distill that wine into a brandy. All right. Again, we can talk shop later on, but if you're talking about a distilled fruit wine, that's a brandy. That puts you into the federal brandy category. We take that brandy, put it back in our still, fill our gin basket, which is just a fancy stainless steel tea bag, is kind of how you can think of it, with our botanical load. And I think Stanton kind of hit on, the juniper aspect of gin. That has to be your dominant flavor in gin. But gin is such a wide open category that you can almost put anything else in there that you want to, as long as juniper is the dominant note. So
I think it's funny that all these people were sitting here thinking they were going to drink whiskey all day, and we've had 2 distilled.
We'll get there. I'll bring it home on this gin. So we've distilled a brandy. We've redistilled that through that botanical load to make a gin, and then we finish it in a used Tennessee bourbon barrel. So we're going to get to this product next. So it's a total bastard of a spirit in that regard, in that it starts as a wine, it goes through the brandy category, into the gin category, and then we finish it. This particular batch was aged for 2 years in a used Tennessee bourbon barrel. So those grapes were actually grown in 2016. Yeah. Like I said, it touches, several different spirit classifications there, but it starts in Tennessee and ends there. So
I think for those of you that are tasting it, it almost is finish heavy over and also it's because I'm not tasting it in proper glassware, so I'm not getting as good of a nose as I would had I'd be tasting this at home. But the finish on it is very unique. It almost kind of has this oomph that kicks you at the end. I don't know if you get that when you have it, or all of you in the crowd if you're getting that as well. I really liked that though. It kind of has that at the end of it. I almost fell out of my chair because I had that much oomph. Really, really good.
Well, I'm glad you dig it, man. I'm extremely proud of this product. It's like I said, it's our first and only expression in that Tennessee Roots line to date. We have some other things coming down the pipe, but it takes time.
It's almost a lot of orange and lavender.
That's not the first time I've heard the lavender. There's 0 lavender in that botanical load.
Really?
But I've gotten so many comments on it. I would say compliments, but comments along the floral route, and there's no.
That's funny.
There's no lavender.
A lot of orange. Is there orange in there at all?
No.
Well, shit. I'm 0 for 2.
Yeah. Keep going. I'll give you a hint. There's.
Should be called Dad's drinking water.
Yeah.
Dad's been drinking for 4 hours.
Yeah.
But it's really funny. Parker Beam from Heaven Hill. There's stories, and I know, yes, this is a Kentucky story, and Tatum's going to give me shit because I graduated from Kentucky. But Parker people would come up to Parker and say, I really love your whiskey. I get this, and this from it, and it's really, really good. And he'd look at him and go, really? Because I didn't put any of that in there.
That's awesome.
Every time somebody would ask him that, he would just be like, well, that's not what I put in there. And a lot of people don't realize the stuff that you get, the flavors that you're getting. 65% of the flavor you get in whiskey comes from the wood. So Keener, being the head distiller, is going to do everything he can, but 65% of the flavor comes from the wood. I will tell you, there is an interview we did with Dan Gardner from Four Roses a few weeks ago.
Yeah, he is.
Dan is the best, and he was talking about closed stave versus open stave, and how your wood, you can't even predict it, but your wood is either going to be open or closed. And the cooperage that is making your barrels, they can't even tell you, right? Like, they couldn't say, like, hey, this is open wood or closed wood. It's just natural selection of what goes in there. So even within your barrel, there's going to be some staves where the whiskey or the spirit really goes deep into the wood, and some where it doesn't. So for all of you today, spirits are stupid, bourbon is stupid, and it's really hard to figure everything out because Keener is going to spend hours and hours and hours trying to figure out 35% of how something tastes, and the rest is dumb luck.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And Kentucky, they do have a great history. I mean, I joke with you about it, but hearing that, I'll tell you from a sales perspective, that's why a lot of times when I do tastings, I don't wait for somebody to tell me what they taste. I'm like, okay, so we're going to try this. You're going to get a lot of this on the front. It's going to have a spicy finish, because I think sometimes people get intimidated and they don't want to give an answer of what they taste because it might be wrong. And so I think that's what's great about this podcast that you do is, I mean, hell, if you're wrong, you're wrong. You talk through it and, figure it out together. And I think
nobody's
cool.
wrong because taste is so
I mean, wrong as far as the mash bill or what's in it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it was an amazing save.
Yeah.
I felt that right here. It was a thud, man. That was like a kick drum.
I was about to run.
All your staff here at this resort are tremendously athletic and able to kick soccer balls.
And he's drinking an old fashioned too. Look at that. He did that with
Did you spill that?
He didn't spill a single drop of that, man. It's insane.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was.
They're all going to be fired for throwing balls on the hill. Coming down. So you were saying, Kris, when it comes to doing tastings, nobody's wrong, but
yeah,
it's almost and the notes that you can give, I think there are generalities of a rye is going to tingle your mouth a little bit more. Higher proof might get you more in the chest, and you understand a wheater might be sweeter than a high rye or a low rye whiskey.
Right.
There's stuff you can kind of give them, but it's probably always best to give that at the end so you don't taint them, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what we try to do. As they're doing it, you know what I'm saying? Like they'll do it and they've formed what their opinion is, and hey, you might taste this or that. So, but it's fun. That's the great thing about this industry.
Can I ask you, how do you actually lead a tasting of Old Forge? Like, where do you even begin when you have so many SKUs?
So, I'll say this from a tasting sales perspective: honesty is number one. And what I mean by that is we sourced our bourbon specifically because we're building, a reputation of good products. But we try to start now. We have so many. We start with the fun flavors, and then you can get into the other stuff. We don't want to wreck the palate at the beginning, and we actually offer the
lower proof stuff.
And that's
initially
separately. So, but it's definitely interesting.
So we are tasting your sourced bourbon right now, but it's very good. So when you source it, and here's where you get into the complexity of sourcing. A lot of times people might hear of sourcing and they don't realize. I mean, most of the people that are listening to our show are going to know this, but for those of you that are sitting here, they're buying barrels from another distillery, but it gets more complex than that because are those barrels aging at that other distillery? Are they aging someplace that you guys have? Because I would say, and I don't want to steal anything that we might talk about later in a roundtable, but there's not a whole bunch of room at Old Forge as far as where your distillery actually is. So are you aging things on site, off site? Where are you actually putting your stuff?
We have a warehouse, a rick house that we have both the stuff that we source as well as the barrels that Keener's put down of our product that's distilled there.
So are you distilling at the other site, and
no.
you have so you're distilling at Old Forge, and then transporting the barrel?
It's called if you're taking notes again, this is another phrase. It's called a non-contiguous space, and it's an extension of our DSP that Billy mentioned at the beginning of the day. It's a distilled spirits plant permit, but it only allows for storage. There's no manufacturing that can take place. So we have a 4,000 square foot building that I don't know if we're going to, anyway, zero storage space there, essentially. So everything, logistically, it makes very little sense for us to make it there, store it off-site, and then bring it back down to the distillery 2 days a week if you're talking about an unaged product, but that's the hand we got. But
and Stanton's point of I think he was 5,000 square feet total, 3,000 manufacturing. So we're 4,000 with about 1,200 manufacturing and 2,800 retail. So that's a bit different as well.
And I would just say that, do you do anything, because the funny thing about the sourced whiskey that you have I know that there are probably NDAs, and you can't necessarily say where you got everything from. But I will say that the distillery is particularly known for having some corn in their mash and having a corn to the taste. And legally, I can say that, but your stuff is not overly corny. I mean, the corn is there, but I don't get a lot of...
Again, well crafted there, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, so to get to your point, the source, where we got and the reason we selected what we selected was it is different. It's a different mash. It's a heavier rye mash, Bill.
Oh, what? Can you tell me the mash?
Yeah, it's 65% corn. So bourbon has to be at least 51% corn. We can get into that later on, but it's a 27% rye and 8% malted barley.
So I think that is something that I want to, just for the hardcore whiskey drinkers that are expecting that distillery to be 84, 8, and 8.
And it's okay.
Right.
I mean, look,
Keener kind of looked at me. He's like, "Holy shit!" He knows.
He just took it. How does he know this?
So does everybody know what we're talking? I mean, source. So there are big distilleries. There are massive distilleries. 95% of all bourbon
Or rye.
rye. Yeah, it comes from one place in Indiana.
And it's all 95 and 5. It's 95% rye and 5% barley is the standard mash bill that you're going to get for most ryes.
Right. So we source this, and it's a higher rye, so that's 27%. But we get the barrel.
Not from Indiana.
No, not from Indiana. It's Tennessee. It's a Tennessee product. So it's but we still cut with our own water. And then on top of that, though, it's kind of a combo, John. It's not all been aged somewhere and then we just bring it over here and dump it. We've actually brought it in and we've aged it in our warehouse some. And so that does make a difference. If you, again, like Keener said, we can talk shop later, but the warehouse and the aging and the heat, the cold, the contraction, and all that makes a massive difference. So it's kind of a...
Did they all drink up that whole whiskey?
But wait, there's more.
No, there's a little bit left. I was going to say that's good stuff. I figured everyone drank.
So it's different. I mean, it's different.
Sorry.
Where's the dude with the old fashioned?
Yeah. Where's my security?
Chris got hit with a soccer ball. It's because Cassie and Carmen only put a string up.
That's going to keep the gnats out.
That's going to stop the soccer ball from hitting you.
Yeah.
Really got to put my hats off to you for that. Everybody, you all try the whiskey. What do you all think? You all like it? Clap. People can't hear thumbs up. So if you like it. And then I know we're going late and y'all want some hot dogs. So this last one is a rock and rye. It's a peach habanero, but you said it's made with natural flavors. It's 86 proof, 43% ABV. Tell me a little bit about this one.
This is the most recent line that we've released. It's a 5-product line. It's a rye whiskey base. So you're going to expect, everybody expects, rye to be kind of synonymous with this peppery, spicy type thing. This rye is a very young rye whiskey. So you're not going to get so much. Well, this is a bad example because it's got friggin' habaneros in it. You're going to get spice from it. But the base spirit is not going to lend itself so much to that spicy rye you're expecting. It's a little fruitier because it is so young. It hasn't had time to age and mature into that spice flavor that you'd expect. The reason we chose that particular whiskey is because it lends itself well to this line. Fruity things, fruit notes. It helps kind of exacerbate. Is that a word?
Well, that peach, it brings
Try to kind of
forward.
Yes.
It pushes.
Thank you. That's So that's what we're going for with this line. This peach habanero is, like I said, one expression. And earlier we kind of alluded to the fact that we're trying to build some synergy with some of the other stores in the square. So you can check the bottle out. It kind of, there's somebody that's a lot smarter than I that wrote the type on the back that tells, what it's about. But we have a little herb garden out front of the distillery that we grow a lot of our botanical load for this particular line. Peach, trying to kind of, again, hate to say hijack, but the peach taffy that we have at the candy store was an inspiration for the peach note in this.
Oh,
so
I have some of that back up at the.
Yeah, so check his tiny house out for the peach note. But so we have a rye whiskey base, and we use a very similar process to that vapor infusion that we kind of discussed in the gin process with those habanero peppers. And we vapor infuse, the alcohol base through that, drag down that habanero flavor, top note it with a little bit of a peach natural flavoring that we also source from somebody that's way better at making peach extracts than us. That's what that line's about. And we have a ginger lemongrass that's off the chain for summertime. Orange rosemary, if you're a rosemary fan, that's probably the closest thing to maybe a juniper or some sort of an evergreen note that you're going to get. Peach habanero. What else? Shit.
Orange thyme.
Grapefruit thyme. We have a grapefruit thyme. Well, because at one point it was an orange thyme. Grapefruit thyme, and then there's a.
It's almost hot dog time.
Yeah, hot dog. We have it. I promise you, we tried a chocolate hot dog flavor rock and rye at one point. It didn't go over very well, but we have a fifth out there. But that's the most recent addition to Old Forge Distillery's lineup.
And I think those are interesting because that's almost like a pre-mixed cocktail.
Right.
You could take something like that, just put some ice in it,
and tonic,
and you know
that's
that
it.
You're gonna have a lot of peach notes in there. If you get something like tonic water, or there are some flavored tonics if you want to get saucy, but I like that. That's 86 proof.
Yeah, you wouldn't know it, would you?
You gotta it tastes like it's one of those ones that's 20 proof.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a lot of kick to it, but it has a lot of flavor in there. I think it's the best way to describe it.
Half and half with some tonic, over ice, a little squeeze of lemon, get a little citrus pop in there to carry that flavor, and you'll, I don't know, 4 or 5 of them, by that pool down there will do you right.
Keener, real quick, because I feel like we could do a longer podcast, but what did you do? What's your background to become head distiller? Do you have a chemical engineering background?
No, I actually quit college.
Really?
Yeah, I'm a college dropout, believe it or not. No, to be completely honest, the less long story of it is I was a full-time fireman for Sevierville Fire Department, which is a neighboring city next to Pigeon Forge.
And you had a still in the back of the firehouse or something?
That was actually, I wasn't going to get that deep into it, but yeah, I had a the nature of that job is you work 24 hours and you're 48 hours off. So every day you work, you get a weekend. So I was drinking a lot, on those weekends. But it was an errant internet search that popped up a link, Moonshine Distiller. I don't even know what I was looking for, man. Probably pipe bombs or something. I don't know what it was, but...
the government's going to use...
Yeah, I know. And what did Billy say? Just so you know... What did he say?
Billy went to...
There was some sort of a disclaimer. In any case, I did actually have a fuel ethanol producer's permit through the Tax and Trade Bureau, the same people that regulate the distilled spirits plant industry. And I was making fuel for the soul, I suppose, on my days off.
You were making fuel for those fire trucks.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
There you go. Fuel for the... You can edit that out. You got a button. So I was at the firehouse one day, and I was reading the newspaper, and my cousin, Al Blanton, pointing at you, one of the... He's kind of... No.
But his name is the exact...
Spells the same.
Everything.
Yeah. Saw that he'd applied for that. Oddly enough. I'd applied for a DSP. Yeah, great name. And mine rhymes with it somehow.
We're digressing.
So,
in any case, saw that they'd applied for a DSP, texted his daughter, who I'd known forever. She's my second cousin, Laurie. Said, hey, I'm doing this every third day of my life at the fire department. If you guys need any part-time help, love to come, part-time work, so that I wasn't drinking so much in those 2 days off I was making it. And it just kind of led to an opportunity from there. And jumped ship completely and hadn't looked back. And, well, we'll be celebrating 5 years here in a few days, right? Yeah, 27th.
That's awesome. I feel like I need to sit down with you guys for a lot longer, especially both of you. But
no, that's pretty much it.
What else is in the future for Old Forge?
Oh my God, we didn't plan for the future. You know, we're the opposite of Stanton. You know, he's well thought out. He had a business model, and we just kind of came in there.
Let's just go.
Oh, yeah,
No, we're rich. We're rich.
So you know, we make money. We make liquor and we make money.
Yeah. No.
That's a callback if you missed like 4 weeks ago.
Oh, my bad.
Where it's not all going to be on the same day that we're putting this out.
We're new to this show business thing.
It was we're new to it too. But it's a callback to our short Mountain Distillery episode where Billy talks about how he's actually. But I mean, he goes out to make that organic, kosher stuff where you guys are just like, have
fun.
You know, Keener's like, I was in the back. Stanton has a well thought out process. Keener's like, I went to the ice cream store and I had like mint chocolate chip.
I was like, damn, that'd be good as a liquor.
Yeah, but I made the moonshine out of this.
There's so much more truth to that than you probably even think you're saying right now.
Well, thank you guys so much for spending some time with us. Where can you find Old Forge? You're on the grams and the Twitters and the Instagram.
We would have loved to have been prepared to give you that information.
Is that something I was supposed to do?
Old Forge Distillery.
At everything?
.com.
OldForgeDistillery.com.
Yes.
You can find them. They are on Instagram. They are on Twitter. They are on Facebook.
We're safe to say all over Tennessee, Kentucky, North and South Carolina. You know.
I know you could get your stuff in Nashville. So
Yes.
go ahead and find them and check them out. You can check Dad's Drinking Bourbon out on Instagram at Dad's Drinking Bourbon, Facebook at Dad's Drinking Bourbon, Twitter at Bourbon Dads. Join our Facebook group, answer a couple questions. We'd love to have you in there. It's a private group, so you have to search for us. Find us on your favorite podcast app, Apple, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, whatever it is, we are on it. Please leave us an open and honest review like we leave an open and honest review about any of the spirits that we drink. You can also find us in Nashville, Tennessee. Let us know when you're there. We'd love to share a pour with you. Kris and Keener, thank you both so much for joining. I have a feeling I'm going to be recording another episode with y'all pretty soon.
Great. Sounds good, man. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks, John.